Hi, welcome back to Cubs and Culture for January 30th, 2018. Continuing our exploration of Gladiator and Ben-Hur and sort of a cultural war thing. Okay, so let me just quickly talk about the reception of Gladiator. Gladiator was released in 2000. It won for Best Picture in 2001, or 2000, whatever, how you want to say that. 5 other Oscars, including Best Actor. Strangely, now rewatching this film for the earlier today, I'm actually probably more annoyed about Russell Crowe getting Best Actor than I am about the picture actually getting Best Picture. Okay, so I'm going to spoil the plot of the film in turn. Okay, so it's the story of a general named Maximus who is sort of the Emperor Augustus, one of the Caesars, most trusted general, and because Commodus, who is the Caesar's son, is not a moral man, he wants to transfer power to Maximus. Commodus then kills the emperor and his family, setting off this revenge quest where through becoming a gladiator, he sort of turns the city of Rome against Commodus, etc. Ends with Commodus and Maximus fighting a duel to the death in the Colosseum, and then sort of in spoilers, the main plot thread ends with Maximus killing Commodus and then going on after the afterlife to see his family. Okay, so that's basically it. So there's spiritual elements to this film, which is important for why I'm talking about it connected to Ben-Hur, because there's multiple scenes of people praying. It's pagan, it's not Christian, or it's just religion. Of course, it ends with him ending up in the afterlife. It's sort of one of the early lines in the movies is what we do in life echoes through eternity. So that's sort of its orientation, and that's what at least it's trying to do, is being this sort of spiritual journey in which death is sort of the final home if you live a good life. Kind of hysterically, the movie ends implying that Rome in 183 AD or whatever became a republic again, which is not true. Okay, so this movie, I both really kind of like it and kind of hate it. I think on some level the movie doesn't quite know what it wants to be. As an action film of spectacle, the gladiator stuff and blood sport is fun and entertaining. And all the gladiatorial contests are all sort of neat to look at, and they all sort of have their own distinct personalities, and so at least it's sort of like this spectacle action film. It's fine. It's kind of good on that level. The thing is, it's not it's wildly historically inaccurate, because like Rome didn't become a republic in 183 AD or whatever. And then like Commodus, the emperor, who's the villain, even though he was a tyrant and a bastard, he was not sort of the weakling person he's portrayed to be as in the film. And it's fine that it's not historically accurate, but as I'll talk about, it's really an issue of tone with this movie. That's sort of like its main problem, my main sort of beef with it. Okay, so before I get to that, let me talk about the writing. The story's fine, and I like how the characters are drawn and everything. So like this sort of betrayal, there's sort of a personal family betrayal story, because Commodus and Maximus, i.e. the antagonist and protagonist, they're both sort of son and adopted son, and they're of the emperor, and then through subtext, they both are, well, not text and subtext, whatever. They're both sort of romantic rivals for the same woman who is Commodus' sister, and at least sort of like the main beats of general becoming a gladiator becoming a criminal, sort of the main storyline is fine. And there's nothing really like missing. The characters have contradictions and stuff like that. The problem with it is, so like the big aspects of writing are perfectly fine for this film. Characterization, basic plotting. What's not fine, is individual scenes, like in-scene writing, like sort of like the actual lines spoken by characters, are way too often in this film is the text and subtext very, very close to each other. So, like, at one point, Maximus is asked by the Emperor, "Whoa, what do you want?" And he says, "Oh, I want to go home and see my family." And that's, like, it's not about going home, it's about being at peace. I mean, so, like, it's basically the same idea. It's the difference between what the actual text says and what the subtext is a millimeter. Or sort of another sort of doing it is, for like when Commodus, when the Emperor is explaining to Maximus that Commodus cannot become Emperor, he literally says, Commodus is not a moral man, which is true, but it's also mostly about him being sort of just, it's not that he's a moral man, he's like, Commodus is just sort of fucked up and a weakling and crazy. Etc. So again, there's definitely space between the text and the subtext, but it's such like on point writing that it doesn't feel. It feels very guttural or very, very blunt. Blunt's a good word for it. And so because of that, the screenplay isn't all that strong in terms of it being a sort of a deep film or any sort of interesting writing. So it is sort of very thinly, like at the end of the day, it is pretty much like the screenplay is what it is, and it's just a sort of an action movie, a dude film where it's all about sort of the spectacle. The problem with the movie and why it's sort of an issue of tone is like that's fine. I don't think the writing in and of itself is a problem per se, because it works perfectly fine as melodrama, or sort of broadly melodramatic, not unserious, not like comedy, but not like a serious exploration of Rome, like an actual like deeply moving drama. Like it's just not that, like, because the writing's not it's too on point and it's not deep enough. And so like it works perfectly fine as a sort of action melodrama, and I like that a lot. The thing is, I don't think Ridley Scott, who was the director, and Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix realized that about the script, because both in terms of the direction, sort of the staging, it's not just spectacle. It's Ridley Scott basically pulls out all the stops to try to make the movie emotionally involving. And Crowe and Phoenix both are very, very committed to their performances, which is fine, I guess, but especially like Crowe, he's so like, there's one scene where he's like crying over his dead wife and kid, and he gets all snot over himself, and it's mostly gross, but at the same other time, it's their performances in a better written movie would be probably powerful, but they're not in a better written movie. They're in a melodramatic movie, so it comes across as not being powerful, but almost kind of overstated, and kind of almost like this movie is dangerously close to camp. A lot of the times, where it's just so past melodrama in the direction and the acting, especially for Crowe and Phoenix, that it's very much almost like this sort of campy, bad taste summer blockbuster, which is fine. Like that, I like those sort of movies, but this movie doesn't realize it's that for the most part, and so there's in direction in those two performances. There's a very self-serious tone, which doesn't line up with the writing very well. So it feels very sort of like it's kind of hilarious on that. Conversely, Oliver Reed, and this is Reed's last performance, and Derek Jacobi, who plays one of the senators, they both sort of, I think it's because they've been around for a while, they sort of know the script. They both have, Reed especially is a very, like almost a wink in his eye because he's such a lovable rogue. Like the character Proximo is such a lovable rascal that he kind of just at times you kind of feel like him saying to the audience, "Just go with this." And it like so like he's absolutely Reed is absolutely enjoyable in the film, but at the same time, like. He's the only one who kind of realizes what sort of movie he's in. And same, other than Jacobi, who's also delightful as the senator. Okay, so the thing I want to really, that's pretty much all I want to say about the movie. The thing about this movie, though, is Maximus gets his revenge and he dies, and it's not a happy ending per se, because not everything works out, but he sort of restores Rome as a republic. Incidentally, this movie kind of has the stab in the back and great man restoring thing that comes from fascism, which is also kind of campy if you care at all about that. I'm not going to go too far into it. But in any case, the ending is sort of, it's not Christian. And it's not about laying down the sword. It's about sort of like getting revenge against, that putting the evildoer in their place is the proper thing to do, which is both sort of broadly, about militarism, and then also it's very much not Jesus of Nazareth of the Sermon on the Mount. Despite the fact that, again, if you look at Ben-Hur, childhood friends betray, get revenge, that's exactly the same sort of movie as Gladiator. Okay, let me pause here because I'm at 12 minutes and counting, so I'll see you in